Belly fat can damage your brain. Too much fat weighs down not just your body, but also your brain. Not only has belly fat been linked to a higher risk of heart disease and cancer, but now a new study shows it can make you as foggy-brained as Homer Simpson. Research published in the journal Circulation looked at data from more than 5,000 people and found that a higher waist-to-hip ratio, one measure of belly fat, was associated with lower cognitive function in adults over age 60. It seems that abdominal fat pumps pro-inflammatory chemicals into your bloodstream, which damages your brain. Obesity harms most organs in the body, and new research suggests the brain is no exception. What's more, the researchers found that getting rid of excess fat actually improves brain function, reversing the ill effects of the extra weight. The new study, which focused on people who underwent bariatric surgery, found that the procedure had positive effects on the brain. But other research has shown that less invasive weight loss strategies, like exercise, can also reverse brain damage thought to be related to body fat. Here's why that matters. Obese men and women are estimated to be about 35% more likely to develop Alzheimer's compared to people of a normal weight. Some research suggests that body fat ups the number of proteins in the brain that trigger a cascade of events that predispose someone to the disease. And other research in mice has suggested that fat cells release a substance called interleukin-1, which can cause severe inflammation and, in turn, gunk up the brain. In a recent study, a team of researchers looked at 17 obese women prior to bariatric surgery and found that their brains metabolized sugars faster than the brains of a control group of women at a normal weight. The women underwent cognitive function tests before their surgery as well as after. The results showed that after surgery, the obese women showed improvement in the troubling brain activity seen prior to going under the knife. And they performed better on their cognitive function tests, especially in the area of executive function, which is used during planning and organization. The findings suggest that the fat loss reversing its bad effects on the brain. It is possible that the long-term cerebral metabolic activity, meaning the way the brains of obese people process sugars, leads to structural damage that can hasten or contribute to cognitive decline, the authors write in their paper. Researchers are still trying to understand the exact effects of body fat on the brain, but one theory is that it's a chain of events type of scenario. For instance, insulin resistance has become linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's because insulin resistance is associated with an increase in fatty acids, inflammation and oxidative stress. Insulin resistance is a metabolic disorder that can be brought on by obesity. Other theories have to do with the effects of certain kinds of fat. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, points out that visceral fat, the most damaging type of body fat, ups a person's likelihood of developing insulin resistance, and on top of that, belly fat can produce stress hormones that can also hinder cognition. Other research has shown that the stress hormones are tied to hunger signaling, and those disruptions can alter a person's sense of hunger and fullness and can contribute to obesity. The more we understand about body fat, the clearer it becomes that belly fat is its own disease-generating organism, said Dr. Lenore Launer, chief of NIA's Neuroepidemiology section of the Laboratory of Epidemiology, Demography, and Biometry in an NIH statement. Inflammation continues to be fingered as a culprit in the link between body fat and a variety of disorders, which include brain-related diseases, and even depression. Body fat, also referred to as adipose tissue, is thought to create substances that cause inflammation, and that could be at least one of the primary ways it irritates the brain. The bottom line is that excess body fat has a laundry list of effects on the body, and none of them are good. But on the bright side, getting rid of that fat should reverse some of the blips body fat is leaving on the brain. We're suggesting that the 229 million people in this country who are overweight or obese enact a plan to reduce their waistline. Adopt a full body workout, don't just target your waistline with sit-ups or crunches, you need aerobics, too. And opt for an anti-inflammatory diet based on leafy greens, legumes, lean proteins, and whole grains. Your waist circumference, measured at your belly button while sucking in, should be half your height. Belly fat linked to cognitive problems in older people. If you're over 60 and, by BMI standards, overweight, it might not be such a bad thing. But there's a catch. If you also have a fat belly, you're at risk for not only metabolic health issues, but also cognitive problems. That's the conclusion of a study published this month in the British Journal of Nutrition. For years, scientists have seen a correlation between children who are overweight or obese and their performance on cognitive tests. In a study published in Obesity in 2008, more than 2,500 children ages 8 to 16 underwent a neuropsychological test, and those who were overweight or obese generally performed worse than those children who were normal weight. On average, kids who are obese are at a disadvantage when it comes to school performance, says Mark Mattson, a neuroscientist at Johns Hopkins University and the National Institute on Aging, and who was not involved in the study. But when it comes to adults, studies measuring cognitive skills in those who are normal weight and those who are obese have been mixed. Some studies find impairments in learning and memory in the overweight and obese, other studies do not. The British Journal of Nutrition paper tackles the issue, and finds some surprising results. No-fat rugby players. Researchers at hospitals and colleges in Northern Ireland examined data from an aging cohort study called the Trinity Ulster Department of Agriculture, which offers data including cognitive scores on tests between 2008 and 2012 of over 5,100 Northern Ireland people over age 60. The study found that older people who have an overweight BMI did better than normal weight people on cognitive tests. But Eamon Laird, a study co-author, says the results are misleading because BMI is not a good measure for determining muscle and fat ratio. The older overweight folks who were healthy were muscular, not fat, and that's a health advantage. A good example is to visualize an Irish rugby player, Laird says. By BMI standards, most of them would be obese, but they are mostly muscle and not fat. The opposite extreme would be, say, Santa Claus, who would have the same BMI as the rugby player, but is obviously mostly fat with a big waist belly. Those who carried some fat, especially around their stomachs, fared worse, however. Researchers found that people with a higher WHR, or waist-hip ratio, tended to perform worse on cognitive tests. Waist-to-hip ratio and risk, divide waist circumference by hip measurement, inches. Low risk, male, 0.95 or below, female, 0.80 or below. Moderate risk, male, 0.96 minus 1.0, female, 0.81 to 0.85. High risk, male, 1.0 plus, female, 0.86 plus. By contrast, Laird says people over age 60 with muscle and low fat may have both cognitive and metabolic advantages over someone of similar age who has belly fat or is even of normal weight. The price of belly fat. The study suggests that belly fat releases pro-inflammatory cytokines that can cause inflammation in vital organs, including the brain. This can eventually cause tissue damage in the brain and may impair cognitive abilities. Another cognitive price for belly fat is indirect, Laird says. Obese people can be malnourished, he says. They have an energy-rich diet but could lack a number of vitamins and minerals, which long-term could cause tissue damage, including in the brain. Belly fat could affect far more than heart health, Laird continues, and it's up to everyone themselves to take personal responsibility to eat healthy and to do some exercise.